Start in 3, 2, 1. My name is Speaker. Today, the second proposition, my role is to firstly rebut the opposition claims one by one, secondly defend and deepen our first proposition case, then bring in new extension material that builds and broadens our bench, and lastly clarify the main clashes and show why the proposition clearly wins. Now let's begin with rebuttals. Firstly, opposition case rests on three faulty pillars. Firstly, tax is unfair in low-income groups. Secondly, the tax won't change behavior, cultures, and habits are too strong. Thirdly, meat is essential for neutral jobs in the economy. Let's dismantle each. Firstly, A. The equality, they misunderstand how tax works. Opposition paints a scary pictures that poor families suddenly starve because meat is more expensive. Three problems with that. Firstly, that SIM tax are designed to reduce the harmful consumption that punishes the poor. We apply this knowledge already to cartoons, alcohol, and sugars, and when suddenly something creates huge social and health problems, harm, we dismantle it. Lastly, is that the meat essentially process the meat feed it to the division perfectly. Secondly, the no income community benefits the most from improved health. Heart disease, diabetes, colon cancers, obesities, all links to high meat consumption hits poor to communities harder because they limit healthcare access, reduce the harmful consumption, reduce the long-term media's cost for them. Thirdly, the revenge will tax help the poor. Firstly, is that there are claims that will explain the subsidies for fruits, vegetable, plant-based proteins, and better food educations, low-cost access to healthy options. Opposition simply ignore this. Firstly, the tax is not a punishment, it's public health investment. The poor benefits the most. B is that the behavior won't change and profiles. The opposition claims people will continue eating meat no matter what. This contradicting decades from parallel evidences. First is that after sugar taxes, consumption dropped significantly in a lot of different countries, and the tax remained the single most effective public health tools in world history. When countries taxes harmful consumption, people do not adjust. So humans are extremely responsible to price signals, especially in food choices. Opposition claim is simply not consistently a reality. C is that meat is necessary for nutrients and economy. Not completely true. Opposition says meat is essential for firstly proteins, ions, B12, jobs, agriculture, but they miss the underlying truth. First, we are not banning meat. Firstly is that we are reducing the access consumption, especially unhealthy processing form, and no one loses the access to protein. And plant-based oil sources like shell, beans, tofu, nuts provide more affordable, healthier proteins, beard, pork legumes, and secondly, the modern food economy is already shifting. Countries are transitioning to meats to mix the protein market. Plant-based alternatives, a sustainable framing, alternative protein startup is all creating new jobs and safer economy that currently staples the livestock market. Thirdly, is that the meat production or productivity is already imposes the massive hiding costs. Healthcare costs for diet-related disease, environmental harm, abilities, resistant crisis, and efficiency in land and water use. Opposition ignore all these. Defending the system they're already failing. Secondly, is defending the first opposition. So our first speaker gave you a powerful and clear case. Firstly, the public health necessary. High meat consumption causes the peril diseases. So the environmental necessary. Meat are enormous carbons and water footprints. Let me reinforce this. Firstly, A, the public health. Opposition never adjusted the scale of harm. The process and rate made increases the risk for the heart diseases, strokes, bowel cancer, obesity, and type of 2 disease, diabetes. This isn't the article. Who's classified the processed meat in the group 1 categories is some categories for diabetes. So first, the article consists in the government to test hierarchies for the ignoring the process of meat. When they both cause a massive population level harm, opposition simply cannot argue the public health while ignoring the overwhelming scientific consequences. B is the environmental damage. Opposition never considers a magnitude. Livestock farming is responsible for 14 to 70% of the global greenhouse gas emission, enormous ground degradation, a massive water consumption, and the inverse of food crops. Depending on the national experience that worsen affected, droughts, crop failures, flooded, and the syntax is not a good health policy. It's climate resilience policy. OP had no answer to this. C is economic returns. Our plans fund the long-term resilience. The wages and meat taxes can be funded to build health programs, food subsidies, school nutrition programs, environmental resilience, and agriculture diversity, and OP misses the revenues to minimal. It's a syntax revenue to many countries to billions per year, and even the modest meat tax generation enormous financial spaces. Opposition had no response unwanted alternative to funding health or long-term programs. Secondly, thirdly, to my extension, new proposition material. Now, let's extend the advanced debate. Firstly, is that a meat tax is necessary for food security in the long term. Developing nations and middle income nations faces, firstly, unpredictable climate patterns, shrinking the water supplies, land security, and rising the food prices. Meat production is the less efficient use of resources. It takes 10 to 20 times more land to produce 1 gram of meat and proteins that plant proteins. It takes hundreds and thousands of liters of water per 2 kilograms to meat. By shifting the diet even slightly away from meat, we free the land from crops, lower prices, stabilize the local agriculture, and reduce the dependence on import. Thirdly, is that the opposition model locks the country into unsustainable, fragile food chains. Tax shape future generations, not just current behavior. Young people first lifelong to eat habits. The meat is cheaper and oversupplies. Children grows up thinking eating is very normal, but sometimes having the correct dessert price signal and promoting the balanced diet and teach the healthy literacy, shaping the healthier norms into several years. We are not simply taxing in one generation. We're building the healthier future generation. Opposition of far too long, no long-term solution of only short-term conveniences. Thirdly, reducing the command prevent animals' health crisis that can only destroy the economy lifestyles, create the highest risk for this. Firstly, is that there are diseases. Secondly, is that antibodies-resistant bacteria and regional livestock cool. So there are trade bans, supply shocks. When meat demands decreases, global livestock system shrinks to safer and more manageable level. Syntax is not only a healthy measure, a pandemically prevention tool. Opposition model increasing the risk to next global diseases outbreaks. Now, moving on to the main clashes, there are 3 core clashes in the debate. Firstly, health versus the habit. Proposition meat causes a massive health harm, and tax reduces overconsumption. Opposition, people like meat, let them eating. This is not a clash. The health of society costs clearly outweigh the personal convenience, and opposition are simply realize the habit over humans' health. Simply, it's environmental and economics. Ob says our tax hurt the economy. We says the environmental collapse hurt the economy more. Healthcare burdens hurt the economy more. And the inclusions, then we have says that our model here reducing diseases, lowering long-term causes, and diversity in the economy, protect the poor, and stabilize the future. Opposition has no credibility alternative. For the reason, our proposition proud to propose. Thank you.